Here comes a new challenger!
Hello YouTube, this is Ibuprofen here. Who am I with today?
Hey, my name's Nick, or Chess Pro. I'm from Portland.
Oh, right on. You're new to the channel. Tell me what you did.
Well, we just got back from Dallas, the regional there, the 2 days, and I was able to get top 64 on both Saturday and Sunday, so really happy with that.
Right on. So you're able to play day 1 and day 2. Did you go X3, X4? How'd you end up with top 64?
Yeah, so I ended up getting X2 on the first day, and then X3 on the second day, so 7-2 and 7-3 or 6-3 because it was a 9-round event. I think X2 was guaranteed top 64, and then I was able to bubble in with X3. I think like half of the X3s roughly got in.
Oh, right on. Well, congratulations. Big deal. So right now we have a new local legend here in Oregon, Chess Pro. Why do you go by Chess Pro? What a dope name.
I don't know, nothing too crazy, just friends in middle school and high school would call me Chess Pro all the time, and I guess it stuck. I've played chess since I was really young, since I was like 6 or 7, and I guess really competitively, so my friends were just always calling me that.
Heck yeah, it's a name that stuck?
Yeah, definitely.
Right on. And so did you play BY? I see that you have BY Luffy here. Did you play this for both day 1 and day 2?
I did, yeah. Originally, like a month or 2 ago, I was playing a ton of Luffy, but Dofi is like the most prominent deck in the meta, and it as well as BY are definitely the 2 best decks. So I wanted something that had a lot more consistency, and something that if you lost die roll and had to go second into Dofi, it didn't feel like a struggle the entire game.
Right on. Do you mind just breaking down your BY Luffy list?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know that, like, I feel like there's a lot of cards that are pretty staple, but let's take a look at yours.
Yeah, I don't think my deck is too crazy, but there's definitely a lot of options for text in BY. For Awakeners, I'm running a pretty standard package. I have two Machinos. Some people have gone down a little bit on Machino just because there's so many cool texts you can do in BY. But I really like it, especially for matchups that try to starve you more, like Bonnie and Shanks. And in Blackbeard, sometimes it feels like you kind of need to hit it to have a good chance. And then super standard, just 4 Flampeys and 4 Hioris, just so you can get really consistent Awakens in the mid game.
Right on.
And then for Searchers, I have 4 Garps, extremely standard, and some people have skipped out on the Searcher event. For BY, just kind of similar to Machino, there's just so many techs, but I really like the consistency. I was trying some of the more techs that BY can run, and you know, kind of the trade-off you get for consistency. Sometimes you just really don't see enough pieces, and it feels really bad to lose just not seeing enough. So I wanted to mitigate that and kind of go for a more consistent list, especially because Dallas was my first regional. So
first regional, and you top 64 both day 1 and day 2?
Yeah.
Shoot. Okay, I gotta ask you more questions about that, but let's keep going.
And then kind of we get to the staples here, really, like 4 Geckos. Pretty, you know, nobody's questioning 4 Geckos. We got 4 baby Sabos, of course. 4 baby Luffys, must have. And then also must haves, the Fist Luffys, just extremely standard for BY.
Right on.
Being able to Hiyori into Fist Luffy and awaken from 2 life with only 1 awakener is always really nice. And it's just a huge present being able to cheat Dawn, and also very notably being able to counteract like Big Moms from Luffy, burning your life, and is just really key. Of course, Rocket Luffy from 07. The pretty much only removal in the deck other than Raigo, but it's so versatile, and with a couple other ways to reduce cost, you really find yourself taking out almost anything with it. So, and then of course just more staples, 4 blocker Sabos, just absolutely needed. Of course, being able to cycle this as well as Rocket Luffy will just win you a lot of games. And then kind of the first main tech that I'm running is Thunderbolt Sabo, and a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. I really enjoy it. I think against Bonnie especially, which is kind of one of the harder matchups for BY, although it's gotten a lot better. Playing this on curve, especially because they're starving you, and taking out a Cavendish or a Carrot can be pretty much game changing. And it can also be really, really good against Pluffy, depending on how they're playing the early game, whether they're trying to take you out aggressively or also like somewhat starve you.
And then both of those matchups are pretty difficult for the BY, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those are two of the harder matchups, so I really like having the Thunderbolt Sabo to try to even those out. If I see it in my starting hand against those matchups, I'm definitely very happy. Yeah.
Right on.
And then for Kuzan, I think it's pretty standard in almost every BY list. Some people are on 3, but I just really like the consistency. I love seeing it. Like worst case scenario, just being able to get 1 card deeper in the deck is really nice. Also on 10 Dawn, a very common thing is being able to play Kuzan as long as you're already on 0 life and you still have 6 Dawn to fully awaken to 9k with 2 babies and 2 Dawn for leader ability. So it's just a really great card and fits perfectly into the deck. And of course pairs great with Rocket Luffy to KO things at 8 cost very cleanly.
Right on.
And then lastly, last 5 cards in the deck, we have 2 Raigos. I think Raigo is really important in the current meta. I was lucky enough to not see Blackbeard in Dallas, but I think you pretty much need to see it in Blackbeard. I mean, you can get around any matchup if you're lucky enough, but obviously Blackbeard's super important. Bonnie and Shanks, it's also a must. Being able to remove a 10 cost Dofi against Bonnie, or even a 9 cost Shanks, or even more importantly, a lot of times 8 cost Kid. Getting through an 8 cost Kid, it can be super great. Also, I think at least one of my games, maybe 2, I ended up using it for lethal just to get through a 5 cost body on my last turn so that I have slightly better swings for math lethal. So it's just a great card. And 2 Namis. I think this card is insane. I think a lot of people have a mix of Nami and Shirahoshi. I think Shirahoshi is also an amazing card. It has a similar effect as Kuzan, obviously, being able to -4, and the fact that you can bring it out with Gecko, so that you can do Gecko into Shirahoshi into Baby Luffy, and pop an 8 cost, and also it's a blocker, so if you're doing a combo like that, being at 7k is a little bit less vulnerable because you're establishing a blocker at the same time. So Shiroshi's great, but I think Nami is absolutely insane. If I'm playing against Dofi especially, if I get this in my trash early enough, and they pudding you, it feels like all you really need to see is a Gecko, because after the pudding, of course, your hand's going to be low for the rest of the game. But if you can bring this back with a Gecko and just replenish your hand and dig deeper to your other Geckos, it feels like you're in a great spot.
Yeah, and then what does this Nami do? I feel like I've seen it around. I don't play BY anymore, but is that the draw a card? What does that do?
Exactly. So it's a 3 cost 2k blocker, and if you have an 8 or more cost card on the board and you have 6 or less cards in hand, you get to draw a card. So as BY is so important, it's so important in BY to have card advantage, and just as many cards as possible, because the more cards you have, the longer you can last in the game, right, as BY. So it's just insane because you're getting that card back every turn, just like how Rocket Luffy is so insane, not just for the KO, but because you're replenishing your hand while you're cycling. So I think one of my favorite things to do with Nami that I don't see happen too much is playing it even when you can go 9k and bring out maybe a Sabo and a Rocket Luffy, or 2 Sabos. A lot of times it just feels a lot more rewarding to go 7k and bring out a Sabo baby and a Nami baby, especially if you have maybe a Sabo left over from last turn and you end up going 7k, 1 life maybe, or 2 life even, with 3 blockers on board. And the reality is you won't have to burn any cards out of hand for counter anyways, because your blockers will just take off the hits and you can do the same thing next turn.
Okay.
So I just love it. I love going deeper and deeper in my deck with this, just to see all of my cards, just to have max consistency. Yeah.
No, right on. It feels like it's a deck that's pretty figured out. But I do see the Nami Spice, the one of Sabo, and the Shirahoshi. Looking back, is there anything that you would change if you can do a day 1, day 2 over again, or is this the list that you're sticking with for OP09?
I think if I had maybe a couple more weeks to really practice some different techs, I'd really want to run Viola. I love Viola as a card. I think it's very underrated. Being able to see your opponent's life, I think, is extremely powerful, especially against a deck like Dofi, where it feels like later in the game you're having to play around possible grab blade triggers, ending the game with bottom decking a Sabo or a Nami, your only blocker. And also, there's been talk about kind of the crazy combo of being able to get a Viola out after stacking your life with leader ability with like 2 Rocket Luffys against a Dofi, playing a Viola, and then you can trigger those, and there's basically, you're not having to counter and you're clearing the board at the same time. I think Viola is insane. And also, one of actually, somebody that I got coaching from before this event, Philip Vu, told me about this insane play he made with Viola, where he was playing against an Enel, and the Enel played a Kata to put a Gecko on the bottom of his life, and he ended up being able to do a value Gecko to play Viola and Flampe from trash, turning down his life and grabbing the Gecko back with Flampe and drawing,
spicy.
which just very spicy, very clean. So I think, and Viola is also great against Ploofy and RP for big moms, just ruining your life and having more outs. So I think that, and also I would consider Zombie Luffy for mirror reasons, which I think is pretty well known. It's really great in the mirror to deal with the opponent's Sabo, and just like on lethal turns or even before that, getting more swings in to burn more cards from your opponent's hand in the mirror, I think is really strong. So I think those are the 2 techs that I would really consider for 09. Yeah.
Oh, right on. And let's transition. You're talking about the text with the mirror. Let's talk about your matchup. Let's start with day 1. Both days, super long, 9 rounds. What did day 1 look for you?
Yeah. So day 1 was a weird day. I was pretty nervous, and my first round was actually red yellow ace, red yellow Sabo.
Sabo?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
So
that's a speed demon right there.
That is a speed demon, and to make it worse, I had to mulligan. I had full awakeners, so I mulliganed, and I mulliganed to 3 Geckos, a Shirahoshi, and a Hiyori. So it wasn't looking good for me out of the gate, and I actually lost my first game in four turns, just because I saw 3 baby Sabos that game, and I think 2 Fist Luffys and a Rocket Luffy, so I wasn't able to awaken, and I died on turn 4.
Oh gosh.
And that felt bad, but looking back on it, I don't feel too bad about it, because I think it helped get my nerves out a lot, and it made me a lot more comfortable going to the rest of the event that day.
And
so,
I guess it kind of works because you locked in and you only lost one more time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually kind of funny. I ended up getting a no-show in the second round of day 1. So like a win's a win, and then
we take those.
Yep. And then third round, I lost to a Shanks. So I lost my 2 games almost immediately. And the Shanks game, I felt like I played pretty well. I felt pretty locked in, and I set up for their 10 Dawn turn. They dropped 10 Shanks, and I had a Raigo to respond, and I was able to Raigo, Sabo, and be comfortable, but then they dropped another 10 Shanks. I didn't have a Raigo. I had to start going aggressive, and then they dropped a Roger, and I was able to survive their onslaught, but then on the clapback, I had 2 Geckos and leader, and I was able to swing 10, 10, 11 when they were at 1 life, and they were able to get out with 6 cards. So
Ooh.
that was tough, but at the same time, I definitely felt like I played pretty well. I think I could have made one improvement in that game, but in the end, I think because they did have full counter, I think they did have that one. But yeah, then I had 6 rounds to go, obviously, and I had to win out, and obviously that went pretty well. I ended up playing an RP, and at this point I was 1-2, so they were a bit
the RP
newer.
Luffy.
Yeah, RP Luffy. Yeah, not
You
Uta.
don't. Hey, no. Sometimes people be bringing these
That's
kids
true.
off meta decks. You never know.
That's true. I did go against the Sabo in the first round. So yeah, RP Luffy. I think they were a bit newer of a player, so I was able to win that one. It can be a tough matchup if they're running the Big Mom package and the Shanks and the Roger, but it doesn't feel too bad, and they were definitely a newer player, like I said, so that was a good game. And then I played against a Dofi, which was good, I think. It wasn't too crazy. They didn't see pudding either, so yeah, I mean, obviously, as BY, you try to play around it, but if they're not able to play pudding at any point in the game feels pretty good. And then I played a Lucci, obviously, great matchup.
Of course.
So I was happy to see that. And then I played a Dofi, and this Dofi game was actually pretty close. They were able to pudding me at 7 cards after I awakened, and I had to dig out of it, but it was a close game, but I was able to have math lethal eventually and push for the win. And then another Lucci in round 8. Again, great matchup.
Heck yeah! So you're eating these
am
Luccis.
eating.
Okay.
So, although this one was a little sketchy, I ended up not seeing Baby Luffy for the first more than half of my deck. So I had to. It was definitely not as free as maybe a lot of times you get to play Lucci as BY, but I was able to recycle Sabo and sometimes bottom deck Luffy's off my life and eventually dig out of it and get Baby Luffy's. So, and then in the 9th round, actually I had a crazy game. Last round, so I'm 6-2, and my opponent's also 6-2, and it ends up being a smoker. So obviously another great matchup. I think my matchups day 1 were a lot more lucky than my matchups day 2, but the smoker game was definitely not free. It was super tough. I think I only saw 1 Gecko this game. Although, as in, I was able to play 1 Gecko early. I did bottom deck 1, which actually, yeah, but I didn't see a lot of Geckos. And they played 3 Geckos, and it was looking really, really bad. But there was a turn where actually I was able to go up to 11k base leader, and basically I was able to push for lethal over 2 turns and go to 11k base to protect myself from their 3 Geckos, because they would have to commit too much Dawn to put in my hand on that turn. So yeah, that was a bit of a crazy game, but that game felt really good because I think I had Gecko in hand when I decided to go for that 11k turn. I think it was my only win condition. So that felt really good. And yeah, so I finished that first day 7-2. I think I ended around 42nd.
42. That's pretty good. Solid,
yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
Though those early losses really hurt the tiebreakers at the end.
They hurt the tiebreakers a lot because I think 7-2 was also a few spots in top 16 and obviously as well top 32, all the way down to 60 or 70. So yeah, but definitely,
we count our blessings though.
Yeah,
that's
for
what's
sure.
up.
I'm not complaining at all. I got to play against 2 Luccis and a smoker, so I think first day I definitely got blessed with matchups in the second half, but I think I also played pretty well, so I was really happy with that. Yeah, and
yeah, what happened? That's what's up. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, what happened day 2? Let's talk about like that night. Like, I'm sure you're super happy. Did you do anything to celebrate, or were you locked in for the next day? Like, what's in the mind of a chess pro? You tell me.
Yeah. It was actually interesting because I wasn't signed up for day 2. So I ended up having to get off waitlist. So I wasn't even sure I'd play day 2.
Waiting in line simulator. How early
yeah.
were you up for that?
I ended up getting up around 5:30. I think I got to the venue around 6. And yeah, I think was in line for maybe 2.5 hours until I got my spot on the wait list. And originally we thought, we'd just get a spot on the wait list and maybe there was like a 20% chance we'd get in from the wait list. But because it was said that they were doing some sort of lottery system. But we ended up, I think maybe more people dropped than they expected, and a lot of people got in off the wait list. So
right on.
So that was good. Saturday night. Yeah, I wasn't even sure I'd play day 2 because I wasn't in. I had some friends that weren't in. We were like, maybe we'll do some 2v2 side events. Maybe we'll check out, the exhibition hall and all the things that were there. But I thought, while I'm here, I might as well try to play. And if I don't get in, I won't be upset, and I'll go do the other things that are available. So. But yeah, I guess I got lucky, got up early, and was able to get into day 2, which was exciting, of course. And and I think day 2 went really well as well. Obviously, it was going even better at first. I think the first round though was tricky. I actually got a Pluffy in the first round. But I dodged Pluffy completely in the day 1, so it had to happen at some point. There was a lot of P. Luffy's there, so first round, and actually I played against somebody who went 7-2 the previous day as well on P. Luffy, so already I knew it was going to be like a harder matchup. It wasn't just a Pluffy that might make some mistakes and give me some openings. And I did lose that first game. They were able to play...
Chase your curse!
Yeah. The first game curse is real, apparently. They were able to play 2 big moms, and they had 2 giants and a third one in hand, apparently. And I wasn't able to push through, so... it was tough, but at the same time, I was thinking about like the last day, I was able to win out, so I wasn't too down about it, and I knew it was a bad matchup, and I thought, I can definitely do well still. So, in the second round, I played. Let's see here.
We gotta look at the archives, match histories.
Yeah.
And day 2 was also 9 rounds, right?
Yeah, day 2 was also 9 rounds. So, day 2 I actually played against a buggy. So, I guess, losing first round, you're kind of thrown into the pit of rogue decks here. And I wasn't sure what to think, because they run pudding, they run grav blade. It could be scary if I don't see enough Sabos and they see grav blade, but I was able to get through it. They did play 2 grav blades and hit a grav blade trigger, but I solved my 5-cost Sabos, Sabo blockers, so I was able to get through. It's obviously Buggy's not a super strong deck, and I was kind of just able to overpower it. And then round 3 was very crazy. I was against another Pluffy, which I was a little bit down about because, 2 Pluffys, first 3 rounds, but I figured, I'm in the X1 bracket, I have a chance, even if I was undefeated, the matchup's winnable, you gotta do what you can. And I lost Dairo, but I went second, I saw Kuzan, which is kind of what you want to be going for in the P. Luffy matchup.
For sure.
And I actually was able to get to stick to take out the same Kuzan, took out 2 Luffy Taros with Rocket Luffy. So obviously that's like insane value. I felt great.
That's public enemy number 1.
Yeah,
you We gotta what is it, Sanji rest that and just kill that dude.
Yeah, definitely. But this game was super crazy because I actually saw no 5-cost Sabos and no Geckos. And I was still able to win. And they played 2 Big Moms and 2 Giants as well. So that was a crazy game to win because I felt like I saw almost nothing. I ended up just trying to play as many kind of chump blockers, Shirahoshi and Nami, and pressuring life as much as possible. And I was barely able to get through on the last turn by like Raigoing a 5-cost kid and swinging for game.
That's what you're talking about. That's where the Raigo came in. Okay.
So that was a crazy game. I felt insane winning without Gecko and Sabo. And maybe if Gecko gets banned, there's still hope. I don't know. But
we'll see what they have to do with the teach leader because that just kills on plays, bro.
That's true. That will probably be the most prominent thing to decide if BY is playable is what happens to teach in 10.
March 16, TBD.
Yeah.
March 16.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, and then round 4, I actually played against a Dofi who went top 16 in day 1.
Oh.
So that was a super crazy game. He was playing really well, and I can't remember the exact game state when he puttinged me. Maybe I was 6 or 7 cards after Awakening. And I was able to dig for Geckos. I think one thing I felt really good about in this game is before I awakened at all, I was at 2 life, and his last swing for the turn was just a 5k into life. And I was at 2 life, and I think normally it's just automatic to just take this life because you're awakening next turn. But I realized I'd have 7 Dawn, and I'd be able to do everything I want to and awaken, and I'd have an extra Dawn. So I decided to actually counter out of the 5k and use that extra Dawn on a Flampe just to get 1 card deeper in my deck. Which actually I think...
What was that card, bro?
Yeah.
What was it? Was it a Gecko?
It might have been.
Oh my
God.
god. Look at that smile. It probably was.
So
disgusting BY players, I'm telling you.
I think just like those small things, digging like 1 deeper is just so important in BY, and in the moment I was like, I felt really good about that play. So yeah, and I ended up winning that game, which felt really good because I knew they were a really strong Dofi player. And yeah, that was great. So then I was, I guess, 3-1, X1 after round 4. Round 5, I played a Shanks. I'm not gonna lie, there was a point in this game where I was in a tough spot and I just had to, put them on not having Roger for about 2 turns before I could fully stabilize. And I don't think it was the craziest gamble. And I think it had to be done to not lose multiple cards out of my hand. So, but yeah, normally Shanks feels like a pretty good matchup. But sometimes you have to do things like that just to have the best odds.
Do they have it?
They didn't have it after the game. He told me he actually doesn't even run it, which I think a lot of Shanks, it's almost never a 2 of. Some run as a 1 of, but at this point, your opponents almost always have to play around it that you can just not run it, and people will respect it 90% of the time.
Oh, for sure.
So that was a good game. I was able to take that. Round 6, maybe one of my crazier games of the weekend was against a Bonnie. Which is, a notoriously bad matchup for BY. It's gone a little bit better, especially running Shirahoshi and Kuzan. Being able to take out those 5 costs early with Kuzan and Thunderbolt Sabo, and also Shirahoshi and Kuzan being able to threaten an 8-cost kid. Can be lifesavers in this matchup, and I did have the Thunderbolt Sabo in this game to take out their Cavendish on curve, which felt really good. They were able to respond. I think at that point, they were able to respond with a Hody and take out Kuzan, as well as Thunderbolt Sabo, which put me in a bit of an awkward spot. And this game was crazy. I remember all the Portland players watching me during this game, and it was super tense. the Bonnie Goat himself, Tony, was watching.
Oh,
And
Cozy Tony?
Cozy Tony on
Shoot.
Bonnie. And yeah, I was barely able to get out of it. I remember on the last turn, actually, Nami came up big. I had a gecko established on board. I believe it was frozen at the time. And I ended up swinging 6 at life with like 5 Dawn up, something like this. And they countered out. If they didn't, I was going to go 13 with Fist Luffy. They did, so I was able to go 10 with Fist Luffy into, I think, a Hody, and then just play Nami. And I was able to survive for one more turn. I think the last 2 turns I did have to put them on not having Hody, but it just has to be done sometimes in the Bonnie matchup. They had played, I think, maybe even 2 already that game to pressure my hand. So it wasn't the craziest gamble, but yeah, that was a really crazy game, and I'm definitely really happy with that one. And then round 7, I did play my first Lucci of day 2, and the only one of day 2, and this was actually interesting because it was a Lucci that I met in the waitlist line that I was talking to for a while. So like a little bit of friendly fire, I guess. We'd met each other and talked quite a bit, and he was a really chill guy. And nothing too crazy about this game. I saw everything in a good matchup, so it was a pretty easy game. But you know, we talked after the game, you know, and we were like, yeah, we'll both try to win out. And he was actually able to finish 7-2 on that day, and I think he got top 32, so that's great.
Oh shoot,
That's
yeah,
really
heck
cool
yeah.
for him, yeah.
You guys pull each other up. That's what's
Yeah,
up.
definitely. Great tie breaks. So, and then 2 rounds left. 6-1 at this point. Round 8, BY Mirror, which was rough. I think I played it pretty well. Just tried to completely lock in on keeping card advantage, and doing everything I could, stalling out to awaken. I was able to get them to awaken before me. I don't think I saw Kuzan. I did go second, but I didn't see Garp or Kuzan early, so my forward on turn was just swinging 5 and passing. But I was able to go into the end game with, I think, 1 extra card, and I hadn't awakened. I was able to play Kuzan Sabo pretty on maybe 8 Dawn or something like that, or on 10 Dawn, I guess, and go 1 more turn, and unfortunately it did come down to a Gecko diff. And I only had 1 Gecko, and they did have 3, so
That's a big difference.
it is a big difference. It's kind of unfortunate that it can come down to that in the BY Mirror, which is why Zombie Luffy can be so good. It can definitely bridge the gap, but it is what it is. I still felt good with how I played the game, and there was 1 more round, so I was hoping to win it. I think my tiebreaks were good, so if I won it, I would be top 32. And if I lost it, I thought I would be top 128. So it was a pretty tense game, and it was actually against an RP Luffy. I think I did make a mistake in this game. On my 3 Dawn turn, I ended up playing Nami down, and it probably should have just been an AK swing, because the Nami turned into Big Mom fodder. And they were able to put a Nami and a Kuzan on my life with 2 Big Moms, and once they played a 3rd Big Mom, I mean, I knew it was too much. I think a 3 life leader healing 3 is tough. And yeah, they dropped Big Mom, and they had a 3rd Big Mom, and they had time skip Luffy. So
Ew, time skip Luffy?
Yeah.
Aye.
So it was rough, but so I ended up going X3 on day 2, 6-3. But
What you finish on day 2?
yeah, so I actually got 59th.
Oh,
so I
okay.
did squeeze into that top 64 to get the double top 64. And it was, I mean, obviously I was happy with it. I wasn't sure I would get top 64 at first, but then I was talking to my other, the other people I played, and I heard they were winning, and you know, tie breaks were looking up, and I was able to squeeze in. So definitely can't complain there.
Right on. Congratulations. What's your thoughts on your first regionals? And this first regional being One Piece Day itself too. Like, can you just talk about the experience of Dallas going to One Piece Day, arguably the biggest One Piece event as of now, and just talking about your first in-person experience at a regional. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I guess it's a little bit different for me because I don't have a huge comparison to other events as regionals, and also because I was competing both days. I actually didn't get to see too much of the venue. I guess that's the one thing. I kind of wish I had time to go see the exhibition hall and all that, but I didn't because I was just playing games pretty much the whole time. But I still had a great time. I was able to meet a ton of people, like Jonas and Cross and all those crazy good players, and just play a whole bunch of games with friends. And I was super happy to compete, obviously, and do well. Yeah. So
for people who are like thinking about it, would you recommend it?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think if you have put time into the game and you enjoy playing competitively at all, I think it's an amazing experience. You meet a ton of cool people, and all the top players are super chill, and they're always, great people to talk to, and it's a super nice community. I think that's like really well known, but everybody I met was super friendly, and I didn't have any weird like rule shark callings on me. I didn't have to, do that to anybody else. It was all smooth. So I had a great experience, and yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It was super fun.
That's what's up. Is there any future regionals, treasure cups in your future at all? What's going on with the Chess Pro?
Yeah, I am signed up for Pasadena for OP10. I think that is in late April. So
it's coming up.
Yeah, so I'm still not sure what I'm playing in 10, because we'll see with the bands, right? But either way, I'll show up with some deck there, and I'm sure it'll be fun.
Is there anything that's any particular deck that's like crossing your mind that you want to dabble in? Have you been doing any OPO10 testing since pre-release is coming up soon?
I've been doing a little bit of testing. I think Green Yellow Law is a super fun deck. I don't know how competitive will be in the meta. It might be one of those decks that just gets shut down by Blackbeard. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how strong Blackbeard is, if it gets hit at all, how the bans affect the meta, I guess. I think I'll definitely play some Law. It's just whether it's good enough to take to a top tournament.
Right on. I'm sorry you didn't get to experience a lot of the Dallas One Piece Day, but competitors compete, and obviously you're out there competing, playing all these games. Before I let you go, any shout outs, any people, any testing people that you want to give a shout out to, show some love, anyone who helped support you on your journey?
Yeah, for sure. I think, Philip Vu, he's a great BY player. From California, and he actually coached me for BY before this event, and he actually ended up going top 16 both days in Dallas, which was really great, really cool to see, and I talked to him a lot, and I think he helped. Without him, I don't know if I would have been able to top, so that was really cool. Also from Portland, some local legends, Scott and JoJo let me borrow this Gecko Warrior ult.
Right on.
And they're the homies. People from Portland will know they're like the off-meta goats here in Portland. Crumbleton, another Portland player. He's pretty much who I do most of my testing with. And Sage let me run into him on Bonnie a lot, so that must have helped with my Bonnie game. And everybody here in Portland, really, especially also Maya. Maya's probably the GOAT BY player here in Portland, and she helped a lot with the BY mirror.
Shout out Maya. She has a couple tops herself, but she won't let me interview her yet. She's waiting. She's waiting.
I'm probably forgetting some people, but really everybody in Portland, Kev, Kush, Tony, everybody. Beaver Warrior also let me run into him a lot, even though he's playing Lucci, and it probably hurt, but
we all love the Beaver Warrior.
yeah. So yeah, really everybody in Portland.
No,
Great community.
right on, dude. Congratulations. Even if you missed somebody, it's all love. This is ultimately a day to celebrate you. Back-to-back top 64 is a really big deal. Congratulations. Nothing but the best for you, and good luck in Pasadena.
Yeah, thanks.